podcast.
Welcome to this special show. We're asking the big question, is this an India where it's always the kissa kursi ka? Do we love to hang on to our chairs and not let go? And in that sense is the youth, which is the huge opportunity that we keep talking about, not getting enough of a chance of their own. My special panel here today, Prasoon Joshi, Gita Piramal, Koushik Chatterjee and Avantika Akerkar. Thank you so much for joining us. Prasoon, I'll start with you, since you always have a little bit of a poetic side to everything that you look at. What do you feel about the fact that we don't like to let go as a country of leaders of all kinds?
Well, I think probably you can say that about politics, and that's also changing a bit. I can see a lot of new people coming in, but I don't think that's true about the corporate world in India, which is still very nascent in its emergence in this country. I think India is a very different story than this kissa kursi ka, which you find mostly in the West, that people don't leave their chairs, and that's the reason jobs are not created. We have many more reasons to celebrate job creations in this country. The way our domestic market is booming, unlike China, which is so dependent on say export and stuff. We are a very domestic dependent market, and it's growing the way it's growing. I think we don't have to worry about kissa kursi ka at all.
But do you think it's more about the entrepreneurial spirit that's sort of taking us to that side, rather than those who would make way for others? That's something that doesn't seem to happen too much.
Even organizations are growing, even big companies are growing. I mean, not only entrepreneurial. I mean, I think we are still far from having that entrepreneurial zeal which you saw in the United States in the boom, in the heydays. I don't think we have that here still. We still I still find people are very institutional, very system oriented. They want to be part of a larger system in our country. We still have that government jobs and job security hangover pretty much there, because we're brought up with that.
Okay, we'll talk about that hangover in a bit. Dr. Piramal, I noticed that you were partially nodding in agreement or disagreement. What was it? Do you believe about this whole kissa kursi ka? You've seen so many corporations go one generation to the other.
Well, I'm constantly asked about why do families feud, why do succession planning, what are the challenges, and I just feel that in India it's really vibrant in terms of big business, India Inc. That you mentioned. I think there's a lot more going on about handing over authority, responsibility, and then giving a young person a chance to succeed. On the other level, the street entrepreneurship, the number of young entrepreneurs who are under 30, I publish a magazine, and in that we try and track these, and the number of people who are 30 and have established businesses which are 100 crores, it's amazing, and it's across the country. It's not just the big metros. So I find that as a very vibrant. So street entrepreneurship, young first generation entrepreneurs becoming sort of reasonably professional and large,
right.
And then at the apex, the sort of small group of large business houses, they see the young people there.
Also joining us right now is Dr. Amartya Sen, the Nobel laureate. I really appreciate you being with us on this special show. The youth are getting a chance to hear from you whether it is truly time for us to unleash the youth and let them take charge. Is it time for us to realize that infusing youth into the economy, into the various systems, whether it's politics, does a whole lot of good?
Well, I think it's always a good time to include young blood in Indian politics and government. The question is to what extent the kind of commitment that the young show can be reflected to what way, to what mechanism in actual choice of the personnel in running the government. So I think from every point of view it would be a good thing to have more young people. That's true now. It has been true always in the past.
Okay, Koushik Chatterjee, you're somebody who's grown, at a very relatively younger age in your entire group, and it's sort of visibly so that you've been doing a lot of good work. Now, my question to you is that, did you think that it's all about yourself? Whatever you can give, you can contribute, is more important than how much people can push you or how much mentoring you can get?
Yeah, I think the institution as a platform has a role to play in developing a person, whether developing him in the academics as he grows up, whether he does a postgrad or a master's or into a PhD. As a professional, you need the platform. If you are not into the entrepreneurial level, then as a platform, if you're joining a company, if you are having the diligence to prove your mettle, I'm sure that there are many people who are young, talented, who would get that platform to do, and I don't think age matters.
But is it true that, the platform or the access to the platform is easy? Because, in many cases you would notice that it's not so easy to get yourself or land up in opportunities that can then catapult your ability to deliver.
Sometimes it is institutionalized, sometimes it is by chance. And I don't think one can plan oneself. I never planned that I would be a CFO at the age of 33, 34. I never planned. It happened. Perhaps some people thought that one can take risk with this guy, and it was then up to me to fulfill that responsibility. And similarly, there are many people who get that opportunity to fulfill.
Okay, I think I'm going to pick up the word risk, because he did mention that, at some point somebody would have said that, okay, let's take a risk with this guy. It's taking a chance. But, is that an ideal way to look at a country that is actually predominantly youth-led, taking a chance? We're taking quite a chance then, aren't we?
Well, it depends, Shaili. For me, what I find very interesting, I'm somebody who was born in this country, and then I left to go and get educated overseas, and then I came back a few years ago. And what I find is so extraordinary is just that people are willing to take a risk. Versus when I was working in the States, not that I could speak for the entire United States, I'm talking about maybe in a few of the companies that I interacted with living in New York, that I found that people were much more staid, much more willing to toe the line, much more willing to go by the book, follow the guidelines. And I find here, given also that I'm in a field where I do training in corporate communications, that people are willing to take a chance. I think they're willing to go the distance. I think that, and they often ask me, can you please help guide our staff into thinking out of the box? And so to me that means, that spells risk.
You could be a politician, you could be a leader. They don't want to pass the baton. Whether it's their concern about whether the youth can take charge or not, we don't know. But the hunger to hang on to that seat is huge. What's your take on that?
I don't know whether that is generally true, that the old people don't want to give away their power to the young. I have not said that. I know that I often hear it. I'm not sure that the phenomenon has been a kind of totally widespread feature of India. I was made a professor when I was very young. I was 23 at that time. That was at Jadavpur in 1956. I was, when I joined the Delhi School of Economics, all of us were, many of us joining as full professors were just around 30. Didn't notice any resistance on the part of the older people in letting us do things a bit differently. So I think my own experience hasn't been that when I was young I saw an enormous amount of resistance of the old. I haven't.
Direction. And even if people are keen to take the risk, sometimes they do need to take it in an environment. If it's not a platform, then somebody needs to sort of facilitate it. In many ways, are we concerned about having lack of direction to what is raw energy, youth power, ability to, take that risk?
No, I think India is a very instinctive country. When I compare it with the United States, and she rightly said, they would do something which they would not want to change, something which is working.
Yeah.
They would never want to change it.
But sometimes
suddenly,
those systems are not just stable, they're stayed. I mean, they're too fixed.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes, but there is certain euphoria you find in that country about stability or about change. Now there is a change euphoria which I am sensing when I go to United States, especially these days in advertising. I find that suddenly this digital and this social media explosion which has happened has suddenly created a lot of furor in people. What will happen to the age-old establishments, and suddenly young people have become more relevant for them. Oh, let's get some younger guys. And it's become like,
it's a fever.
Yeah. India is very instinctive in its approach. We have never ever shunned young people. We always have, a culture which recognizes brilliance, which recognize our whole education system. Our culture is such that it never has shunned young people and said that we are scared of them or of them any of that sort.
But if we've not shunned it, we've also not welcomed it, right? Because we seem to have huge gaps in what is what is desirable and what actually can be put out.
Still experience and a certain kind of, we have never said that experience comes with age. It's not all about age in India. It is about wisdom. We have always talked about wisdom. That's why, we talked, that could be a negative at times, that we talked about pedigree and we talked about culture, which culture you came from, and you represented a certain culture. I think that wisdom was imparted, that was very important part of our culture and still is. So I think age becomes a third dimension rather than, only sort of way of judging people.
Dr. Piramal, would you agree with that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, because I have a feeling that somewhere in that traditional wisdom, these have been very deep-rooted issues for us, where, traditionally experience and the number of years, etc. have mattered.
Well, I wouldn't put it quite like that, but I would say that generally we are brought up as young children to say, you must listen to your elders. And for girls, it's even more. You talk of whenever you talk of the demographic dividend, you forget that 50% of that is women, right? And then there is a whole bunch who are very young. And they are continuously that first the women are second-class citizens. And then after that, you must listen to your elders, and that is reinforced by the rote method of education that we have. So by the time they come to an age when they can take decisions, I really don't know how well informed they are of what they could do, and they're sort of already put into this sort of mental box. And now the optimism in me says that yes, you put in, but at the same time you're just seeing incredible innovation. Because they don't know anything, they're able to innovate and think in a way which the West certainly can't.
Okay, so you're saying that
it is collectivism versus individualism. If you see, India is a very collective society. It is traditionally been. You're part of a collective. You moving in a direction not as an individual with pursuing your own goal. It is a very Western way of thinking that I, me, myself.
But can that actually be looked at as a negative sometimes, that when you have to go with collective dance? I mean, I don't want to use the word, with a herd, so to speak, but really, at some level, that might become a herd. Avantika?
Again, I say, it's a very interesting question, because I think there's a security that comes in a herd instinct. And so when you operate in a herd instinct, when you don't take that chance, you know that something will work or somebody else will follow and toe the line. However, I'm not so sure that the herd instinct will work anymore in this country. I think that, and I might have to disagree also with you, Prasoon, and agree with Gita, is that I believe that we're not very good necessarily at encouraging innovation. And I think it happens, and when it does happen, like when you read about in a tier 2 city or so, of some young kid who's invented something close to a search engine like Google, and all of a sudden, India is talking about it.
Yeah. There are no sort of channels by which we can sort of make this more consistent and actually take it forward.
I believe that I'm not an authority, but I believe.
You think so?
I think if I just stand back and see, opportunities in India are yet not secular, in the context that it's in pockets, and that has to do with the fact that there are a lot of young boys and girls who are in towns, cities, villages, who do not get the opportunity as we stay in metros.
Right.
I mean, I have grown up in a small town, and I know how my son gets exposure. I didn't get. Maybe time is one issue. But the fact is that the development and opportunities need